Start recording. Start recording. All right, we are going to go live in just a minute here. Start recording. All right, we are going to go live. Welcome to the Pipeline Podcast. Today is December 17th, and we have a pretty fun episode that we're going to get into tonight. And you could call it Christmas themed. We're going to talk about Stranger Things. So, Stranger Things season 5 has been rolling out on Netflix this month. I believe the last parts of the season come out around Christmas. So we wanted to go over this episode, and what we're going to talk about is the things in real life that actually happened that kind of influenced the show. So they took reference from a lot of real life kind of conspiracies and kind of turned it into, like, this fun science fiction, almost like horror TV show. And the last like week or two I've been rewatching Stranger Things, so I know a little bit more to like talk about, because this video idea was brought up to me by someone and I was like, oh, that's a great idea. I just, I haven't seen Stranger Things in forever. I barely remember it. So I kind of rewatched it, made a list of things that they mentioned in the show that were actually real. And if you're familiar with like basic conspiracy land things, it's like MK Ultra experiments, and then there's also this Montauk project, which we're gonna get into. So get excited. And if you're not familiar with Stranger Things, it's like this TV show where there's like a secret government lab, and they do like testing, like human experiments. And then there's like, it's 11 is like the character. She like breaks out of the lab. She has like superpowers that she got from these like experiments. I believe, to go a little bit deeper, she actually got them from the drug use of her mother, and then she was experimented on so they could try to, like, the government could try to harness her powers or something like that. So we're just going to go down a list. We have a few examples of basically real life things that did happen that kind of influenced the show. The first one I want to get into, this is the one that most people point to. It's Project Montauk. And it's a conspiracy theory that alleges there is a series of United States government projects conducted at Camp Hero or an Air Force base nearby in New York. And it was for developing psychological warfare techniques and exotic research, including time travel, which is like super fun stuff. So the stories of it have been around since about the 1980s. And it seems to have originated with the highly questionable account of Preston Nichols and Al Bielek, who both claim to have recovered repressed memories of their own involvement, which is like kind of another thing that you'll see in the show a little bit. Anyway, this Preston guy claimed that he was abducted against his will to like perform these experiments. And then this one, the Project Montauk, it is a conspiracy theory. It's not like the government has gone out and said like, yeah, we did this, but there is a lot of good evidence to um there is a lot of good evidence, and you might actually think like it's a real thing, although this one is debated. We'll get into the MK Ultra a little bit later after this. And the MK Ultra experiments are like confirmed to be real. This one is a little more questionable, but either way, these stories have been around for a while, and the creators of the show actually reference this, and it is like pretty cool to see, and I think it makes this it adds like a another layer to the show where it's like, okay, obviously, it's like science fiction, but they're using some like real life elements. And here it talks about it here a little bit at the bottom. The Netflix TV series Stranger Things was inspired by the somewhat dubious Montauk Project, and at one time, Montauk was used as its working title. And that's why I wanted to go over this before we got into MK Ultra, because basically this story, um, it literally the Montauk Project was the original name of Stranger Things before they changed it.
Don't you fucking gamer me. I'll kick your goddamn ass.
Dude, don't even touch me.
Ew.
But yeah, this is it Montauk or Montauk? Do you know?
Montauk. Montauk.
Yeah, the Montauk Project.
Montauk.
That was the original name for Stranger Things, and so they definitely like reference this in the show, which I think is actually pretty cool.
Stream it.
Here, boop. There we go. It's streamed. So yeah,
The 80s synth music.
80s synth music.
Yeah, Stranger Things.
Oh yeah, dude. Hell yeah. Here, fuck. Where was I? Anyway, yeah, Project Montauk. It's the claim is that they were abducting people for like psychological experiments. And again, this one is a conspiracy theory. The government has never really gone out and said like, yeah, for sure we did this. But again, it's not something they would like to own up to. Um, so it is just a theory, but it's definitely referenced in the show, which is super fun. And it says here it's a lot of these things, it centers around topics including United States government military experiments in fields such as time travel, teleportation, mind control, contact with aliens, and staging faked Apollo moon landings, which we'll definitely do an episode on the moon landings in the future. But we're not going to hit on those too much tonight. And then for like comparisons to the show, you have I was already talking about it earlier, but you have it's like the one of the main characters, 11. She's like this human experiment, and she's like locked up in this secret government research lab, and the government's doing like testing on her basically, and we'll get into it more, but they go into like remote viewing and like superpowers. She has like telekinesis, like that kind of stuff. Super fun stuff. Which are things our government actually tried to do, and it's more referenced in MK Ultra. So we'll get into this. MK Ultra, there's kind of a lot to it, so we're just gonna try to stick on the points about it that can be compared to the show. I mostly wanted to start off with mind control first. So there are like real legitimate CIA documents that suggest they investigated chemical, biological, and radiological methods of mind control as parts of MK Ultra. and like like real government money was spent on this stuff, and they actually were like trying to do it. There was a bunch of just different institutions and universities that were involved in the experiments. In the show, we just see, I think it's like Hawkins' lab. There's like again, it's like a government science lab in this small town, and that's where they're running these experiments. And then it says, in case you're unfamiliar with like MK Ultra, they were giving like LSD to a lot of like random people. Like people would they would like give you LSD, but you wouldn't know that you had LSD, like that you had taken it, and they would like monitor your reaction. And that they go into that in the show a little bit too. Like the mother of 11, I believe they were like giving her LSD and it like fucked up her brain, and then eventually they were like she was like part of these kind of experiments, and that's how she had the kid 11 that had these superpowers. It was because of the mother's like drug use. And so the government like kidnaps the kid, and they give the mother like electroshock therapy to like fry her mind, which is super fun stuff.
Well, it's funny because like that's the whole concept of what the CIA did for their like MK Ultra, LSD remote viewing, testing or experiments, is that they got a bunch of college kids who were needed money to come do experiments and get drugs for free, and then they did this stuff. And so there's some CIA document, or there's some book by some whistleblower that mentions that one of the test subjects, which was a woman who was able to do some remote viewing or something, had her kids stolen, just like in uh,
Yeah,
the TV show.
yeah, just like in Stranger Things. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And
And so it's almost like they just read the CIA documents and then created the Stranger Things
yeah, they
version.
did. I believe I forget exactly like the creator. Let me just double check so I get their name right. It's like two brothers. The Doofer brothers, Matt and Ross Doofer. Yeah, they referenced a lot of this stuff for the show, which I think is really cool because it kind of it's always fun to see like things being created that are like kind of based off like similar real life events. Um yeah, so let's try to get through this like MK Ultra stuff and specifically talk about things that are referenced in the show. So yeah, it definitely is like they got the mind control LSD like projects, which is super fun stuff. They were testing like, oh, let's see, what is this? Like chemical, they were doing like chemical and biological warfare research, which there's like these aliens in the show do like biological warfare, which is kind of interesting. It's kind of like a smaller aspect to it. It was very ethically controversial, which again, the show is the same. These like kind of like the testing they do on these children. Oh, and here they were using methods of psychic driving and de-patterning. So it's basically like they would like subject patients to continuous playback of like recorded messages to like see what had happened to them. They often with themes of self-improvement or identity reinforcement while they were under the influence of like LSD, which sounds like torture to me, but they kind of thought they'd be able to like break the subject's mind down so they can build it up to in a way that it could do these kind of like remote viewing things and hopefully get like superpowers. But I do believe, yeah, these LSD experiments are the biggest part of MK Ultra, which they do hit on in the show a little bit.
Yeah, the main part, or the bigger part of these LSD research, um, experiments were for remote viewing, like being able to spy on people, like they show in the TV show where she's, trying to listen to people in other rooms or see what's on pictures or whatever in a different room. And so that was the main use that the CIA wanted for it, was to be able to wiretap someone without, needing electronic equipment, without even needing to be in the room. And so there's actually several CIA documents that talk about remote viewing experiments and being able to, pick shapes out of a person that's holding like some cards in a completely different room, or even remote viewing on the moon, going to those three large pillars, the three large triangle structures of the monolith on the moon, whatever it is, like being able to remote view there. There's CIA audio of some of the remote viewing sessions.
Oh, that's
And
super
so that
fun
they don't
stuff.
really, yeah, they don't really hit on that in the TV
They do
show,
a little
other
bit,
than like,
yeah. They
yeah,
they
but
kind of use her to like
part of
spy
it,
on the Russians.
yeah, right, but part of it was also, interdimensional space and beings and things like that, trying to figure out that whole three like monoliths on the moon. Let's see if I can pull that up.
Yeah. Which yeah, super fun stuff. Another thing I wanted to get into is like the NSA. So there was like I believe it was like Edward Snowden a couple of years ago, like whistleblowing about how the NSA was like spying on Americans like phone calls and stuff like that. And they do that in the show. So in the show, once the girl 11 like breaks out of the lab, they're like monitoring like the phone calls of people like the suspects they think that are like harboring 11, just to kind of like keep tabs on like where she is, try to find out information. And like that part is a real thing, and that part is also like in the TV show. You have like the government spying on, basically just Americans' phones. They're like wiretapping everyone, which is like a real thing that actually happened. And then here's just like it's just like a Reddit theory. So there's a lot of different theories. It's like I believe it's Dr. Brenner in the show. So people are like, is he based off like a former Nazi scientist, or is he based off maybe one of these like this guy Frank Olson, or sorry, not this guy. This guy Frank Church,
So
sorry.
real quick, I just wanted to point out, yeah, there's like two or three pyramid structures on the moon.
And what they were trying to remote view and see what's up with those.
Yeah, because, the whole tied with pyramids in Egypt, like maybe the pyramids came from a different planet or some stupid shit, or
Yeah, some fun
whatever the
stuff.
conspiracy theory is that, and those two of them ended up on the moon or something.
And I believe it
But
was
yeah, so they tried to remote view there.
Yeah, there is like other evidence that sometimes the remote viewing did work, but I don't really understand how that would be possible. And then also, um, people
So
say,
it's astral projection. Remote viewing is astral
hmm
projection, and it involves using your pineal gland. And your pineal gland is the one that's what all the hippies say is their mind's eye. Whenever you take any psychedelics or anything, that weird feeling you get in the middle of your forehead, that's your pineal gland. And so the conspiracy theory is that your pineal gland is how you're able to interact with other dimensional beings, or use any of that remote viewing, whatever DMT
hmm
network thing that people talk about. um, those things, you're able to use those things. However, fluoride, which is in our public drinking water,
yeah, it like shrinks your
calcifies
pineal
your pineal
gland.
gland.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
so
there's
it
that
makes
whole
it not usable.
conspiracy.
And so that's the conspiracy, and then that's one of the big conspiracies, is that the psychedelics are able to reactivate or constantly get your pineal gland to do whatever it does. I don't know all of the talking points behind it, but
Well, yeah, and there's obviously not a
that's
lot of science behind it either. The way I kind of understand it is it's like there are animals that can learn things from like other animals of the same species without actually like communicating it. So it's something like if there's like a new kind of rat trap that's invented in like New York within like two generations of like these rats, all the rats in the world, not even just like in New York, will be like aware of how to like avoid that trap even without communicating. There is like some kind of way that species can like kind of communicate or at least gain knowledge without like
Oh,
seeing it like
I've
firsthand.
I've heard about that before. I forget what that's called. That is a thing.
It is a thing. And so people kind of think like the pineal gland is for other beings without maybe like directly communicating with it, but it's almost like it's like the hive mind, I guess is a way to put it, where it kind of like syncs you up with other like life forms. And this is all like, conspiracy land stuff. It's not like proven, but that's kind of like the theory behind it. People don't really understand how it works yet. But there are like real life examples. The one with the rats, like the rats and other species as well, they can learn things without actually like seeing it. And it's kind of like how exactly does that work? And so people kind of compare it to like the pineal gland, and then they say like the government put the fluoride in the water to like turn that off for humans. For whatever reason, who knows? Um, and yeah, there's like reference to like potentially a Nazi scientist in the show. That's kind of like just a theory, either a Nazi scientist or like some kind of like psychiatric like doctor. Basically he's like the evil like creepy doctor that runs these experiments, and there are like references to like these kind of people in real life. um I believe like another theory is he's similar to Donald Cameron, who is the first chairman of the World Psychiatric Association. He was president of the American Psychiatric Association and the Canadian Psychiatric Association, and he was a member of the Nuremberg Medical Tribunal. Some people say he has like they referenced him in the show for this like Dr. Brenner, and then other people say he could be like based off like a Nazi scientist because the Nazis did like experiments like in these concentration camps. They did some like very unethical experiments, which actually led to like a lot of new like medical research. I forget exactly what the claim is, but people say like without these like Nazi scientist experiments, like the medical field would be like a lot farther behind. And the reason we have a lot of this research is because they didn't follow like ethics like during the time when they were doing those experiments, which is super interesting. I mean, that kind of like goes into a theme of the show. They're trying to do research and experiments that if the public knew about, like people would freak out. Oh, and then here I just wanted to get into like CIA sanctioned research. So like these like MK Ultra experiments, like they weren't just run by like third parties. They were like government sanctioned and like government funded, which, is the same case in the show. You kind of have a dynamic in the show of like the small town police, which is just a couple guys trying to deal with this like government funded research program who has access to like really good technology, um, and like the military. And so it's kind of a unique dynamic that you see in the real world, even though not in an extreme case where they're actually fighting. But you see like basically small town government, and then you see like the federal government. There's kind of a dynamic there. This source gets into the remote viewing a little bit. We're not going to spend too much time on it. I just wanted to show that basically it was a real thing. The CIA did try to like get people to like remote view. And the reason they did this is the same reason in the show. So they heard that the Russians are studying like how to remote view, And they said, oh shit, we don't want to get too far behind, so we'll start our own remote viewing program because the Russians are doing it, and we'll just start now and see if we can catch up. And so I do want to look at this for just a little bit, see if we can find any fun stuff. They're referencing like ancient Egyptians here, which is interesting. Psychoenergetics, precognition, psychokinesis, remote viewing, and other underdeveloped human capabilities, which kind of goes back to what we were talking about with like the pineal gland. And then what is it? Psychoenergenetics is the multidisciplinary study of the interface and interaction of human consciousness with energy and matter, which is exactly like the superpower that Eleven has in the show. And there was like, real life CIA program that tried to like master this. Which honestly is super fun stuff. Oh, and here they're talking about like hot tubs. So I forget exactly what it's called, but do you know those like chambers that like float you that make you feel like nothing? They would put you in like these chambers to help you like remote view, like an isolation chamber or something. Which again, like those are like real things that people do, and they say it like how it like boosts your health or lower stress. But then here they're talking about you go in like one of those isolation chambers and it boosts your remote viewing capability, which they do in the show as well. But yeah, here I don't want to. I could read through this whole thing. It's super interesting stuff. I mean, these are all like government documents, which is the best part about it. It looked like the CIA was studying remote viewing for about 13 years, and they used like millions of dollars of taxpayer funds to like research, to like fund the research. This is another thing that's referenced in the show. It's kind of important for the show. So there's like the upside down, um, which is kind of based off like a real, and obviously not real life, but there's like this guy Hugh Everett. He had this many worlds interpretation. Basically, it's a radical idea in quantum physics proposing that every quantum measurement causes the universe to split into multiple parallel non-interacting universes, each representing a different possible outcome, thereby removing the need for wave function collapse and explaining reality as a branching multiverse where all possibilities are realized. Basically, they reference this in the show and they kind of say, um, that's like what the upside down is. It's like an alternate universe. So like in Stranger Things, there's like, there's like the real world where the show takes place, but then there's also like they go into the upside down, which is like an alternate dimension. It's like an evil dimension. And they even reference like Hugh Everett in the show. That's kind of how they explain the upside down, which was super cool. And then you like Google this and you look into it, and it is like a real, theory. It's a real interpretation. That would explain what is it? Some like quantum physics, which is kind of really fun stuff to think about. Another like smaller example, I just want to go through these smaller examples of like real life influence in the Stranger Things show, but then I do want to come back to like the MK Ultra stuff and talk about it more. This is something that they referenced in the show that I didn't know was a real thing at the time. So basically, I think it's in season 2. There are like these monsters from like the alternate dimension, the upside down, that are like in the real world, and it's affecting all the crops. And in the show, all the crops, all the farmers are complaining. They're like, "Hey, my plants are dying. I don't know why." So they go to like the sheriff, and they're like, "I need you to figure this out." And basically, in the show, they explain it that it's like magnetic fields, because this like portal to the upside down has a lot of like a very strong magnetic field, and it's fucking with the crops. And I believe the like monsters are as well. And you Google it, and it's actually a real thing. So magnetic fields significantly affect plants, influencing seed germination, growth yield, and stress resistance. So if you have a farm next to a very very strong magnetic field, it will actually like fuck up the growth of the plants, which like is a real thing. So I just thought that was like super cool in the show. That they actually use like real science to explain like how this these interdimensional beings like affect the real world, which would be the case if there were monsters with like a strong magnetic field, or like a portal to another dimension with a strong magnetic field. You could try and find it by looking for like crops around the area that are dying. It would be in that area. And then there are other references to it in the show, like their compasses don't work, because if the compass like points towards like the North Pole, but if there's like a strong magnetic field nearby, it'll like mess up the compass. And you can do this at home actually if you have a compass and a strong magnet. Put the magnet close to the compass, and it will like move it around a little bit. Real science in the show, super fun stuff. Another thing that they reference in
Well,
this show.
I think also in the show the aliens or whatever the interdimensional beings also cause like rot. I think it causes
Yeah,
rot.
yeah, they do like overdo it in the show. So yeah, they like it like rots the in like a science fiction way. It like rots the plants. In the
Yeah,
real world, it
yeah.
wouldn't look like that. They would just kind of die or not grow very well. It's like over
Well, I guess it would
dramatized.
eventually rot,
Yeah,
but
not in the
it wouldn't
exact.
be as accelerated.
Yeah, not in like a super
Uh,
strange way like in the show. But it's yeah, it's cool to
Strange,
see. Um,
but yeah, yeah.
yeah, this is another.
That's what a lot of people have contributed, like global warming or the temperature fluctuation too, is that the reversing of the poles, which happens like once every 10,000 years or something like that. And so obviously the reversing of Earth's magnetic poles can also cause a lot of issues, as demonstrated by the plant issue with magnetic fields.
Yeah, totally. Another smaller example of like real life science in the show. It's this fungus. It's like a specific type of fungus. It's called Ophiocordyceps, and it's basically a fungus that like takes over control of its host. Where like I don't know if you like, here's a picture of it. I'm sure you've seen like super cool like gifs on Reddit or whatever, where like it's a fungus that it like takes control of a bug. It grows inside the bug, and it actually uses the bug as like a host to like walk around and do stuff. It's almost like an alien like taking control of your mind. And they reference this in the show. Like one of the characters gets one of these like upside down monsters. It like it, I'm not exactly sure, but it like plants like a bug inside him, and it kind of takes control of the host, which is like the character in the show. And again, there is some real science behind this. Um, I guess the closest thing to humans that I could think of this happening is like rabies, where like if you get rabies, like you kind of lose control of your body. But there's more prevalent examples in like smaller creatures, like ants here, or like bees. This happens to bees or like fish sometimes. There are like different fungi that can actually like take control of like the body. And most of the time they use it to reproduce or to just like grow for like food and stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to show that it's like a real life thing. And then another like smaller example in the show that is definitely real is the just a whistleblowers. So they at one point in the show they go to like a well-known like internet sleuth conspiracy theorist to try to like break the story wide open, to try to like get the government to be aware of, or sorry, get the public to be aware of what the government was doing in the show in Stranger Things. So they go to this conspiracy theorist's house and they're kind of brainstorming like, how do we explain this to the public in like a believable way? And you see this happen a lot with like real life whistleblowers. So you see it's like people like Edward Snowden. He's like the NSA surveillance whistleblower, which is super interesting to talk about him because in the show they also have references to the NSA. But then there's other people like Edward Snowden. Like I feel like Edward Snowden. Oh, and who's the other guy that was in the like Ecuadorian consulate in like the UK for years or whatever? Do you know who I'm talking about? Here, let me Google him real quick. Oh man, how could I not think of his name? Oh, Chelsea Manning is another one as well. But it's not Chelsea Manning, it's not Edward Snowden. But either way, whatever. Let me go back to these whistleblowers. Either way, in the show, they hit up this like he's not technically a whistleblower, but there's like two main characters. Oh yeah, the Montauk case. We covered that in the beginning of the video. If you actually want to go back to the start, we were talking about that at first. The Montauk project. It looks like this is like the main reference of the writers in the show. And I believe they use this as kind of the basis for honestly like the whole plot of the show. And then all the rest of these little examples we're going over are like other real life examples that they used. But just as a reminder, the Montauk Project is still technically a conspiracy theory. The government has never straight up said they actually did this. But a fun fact is the original name, the working title for Stranger Things was the Montauk Project, which is super fun. And then back to these whistleblowers, it was like two of the main characters, they go to this conspiracy theorist guy's house basically to try and whistleblow about these like the government facility experiments that are happening in the small town. And yeah, I just wanted to talk about how, you know, that's like a real life thing as well. And then yeah, these are the creators. It's Matt and Ross Duffer, the Duffer brothers. Um, and yeah, they referenced a lot of these like real life conspiracies, and in most cases, like real life science or experiments that actually did happen, in reference to the show, which is very fun stuff. And then here, let me check my notes. I might have some more examples we can talk about. And I do want to just say, I think if you live in conspiracy theory world, I think the show is actually it's actually a great show because it kind of like if you watch the show, maybe you're not someone who really believes in conspiracy theories or kind of thinks like all of them are like super kooky. If you like kind of watch the show, pay attention, um and then look into it or even like watch this video that we're doing, it'll kind of show you that a lot of the stuff in the show isn't actually a conspiracy theory. They're taking real life events and like creating a nice like science fiction show about it. So I think if you're someone that cares about people like believing in conspiracy theories, or you want to encourage other people to look into conspiracy theories more or have more of like a critical like thought process about like real life events, and maybe if you want people to like maybe not trust the like mainstream or like mainstream government opinion of everything, I think the show is good for that. Because it will kind of like open up people's eyes to like kind of question more things, question more official narratives. Because we do have like examples, you know, we got like the MK Ultra experiments where they're like dosing people with LSD that for a while the government just denied, but now we know like it is a real thing. And then that same thing goes for what we were talking about here, like the remote viewing program. So we heard some rumor that Russia was studying like remote viewing, so we just decided to do it too, even if there was like no proof that it was like a real thing or not. All it takes is just a little rumor that, you know, communist Russia is studying this, and that's enough proof for the United States to fund it and kind of try to develop their own remote viewing program, which they spent like millions of dollars on over, I believe, like over a decade. And I do believe that is all the main parts that we wanted to cover in the video. Do you remember that lady that got abducted that you were talking about? I tried to find it, but I really couldn't. Yeah, I might spend a minute and try to find it just while we're streaming it. Hey, all right. Google is saying it's Dr. Afia Siddiqui, a Pakistani neuroscientist whose supporters claim she and her three children were abducted by the CIA and Pakistani intelligence in 2003. So let's look into this because this could have been what was referenced for 11 and 11's mother in the show. I mean, there are other cases of this happening. Like whatever this is, Deanna Ortiz. I almost want to look into this. This one looks a little bit older, so it might have been around the time from like MK Ultra. So I might want to look into this. No, that's not it. Here, let's look into this. Okay. Afia Siddiqui, again, Pakistani neuroscientist. She gained international attention following her conviction in the United States and is currently serving an 86-year sentence for attempted murder and other felonies at the Federal Medical Center in Fort Worth, Texas. Oh, this is going to be good. Okay. Cuz that happened in the show. The mom like showed up to the like government facility in Stranger Things, the like Hawkins Science Laboratory or whatever it was called, and she like showed up with a gun, started shooting people trying to save her daughter. And what they did after that is they like fried her brain with like electroshock therapy. So I'm already seeing some similarities with this lady here. I just want to scroll down to where things start getting juicy. Her case is one of the most mysterious and a secret war dense with mystery. Super juicy. They allege that she was conspiring with the KSM. She knew that the FBI was looking for her, so she went and disappeared. No one knows where she was from 2003 to 2008, and people claim that she was held prisoner by the US, but that's not really proven. People say she was in hiding. And then since, there's been a confusing series of reports and denials of her arrest and detention in Pakistan and the US. In 2003, local newspapers reported that a woman had been taken into custody on terrorism charges, but it was a sketchy news report. And then afterwards, the Pakistan government and the FBI publicly stated they were not involved in her disappearance, which again is sketchy. Her
Who's this?
sister, it's it's a lady that they could have used in the show. So this lady has a lot of similarities between or with Eleven's mom in the show. This lady, like people said she was like kidnapped or whatever, and then she showed up to like a government research facility, the Federal Medical Center, with like a gun. And I believe she thought that they had her children and they were doing experiments on her children. And who
Oh, this is the lady.
yeah, I think it's the lady. And there's a lot of conflicting reports. None of it's like really proven that like the government really experimented on her or her children, but it looks like she thought that at the least. And you see that
Well,
in the
and so
show.
that could right, exactly. And so that could just be the government covering up, kind of like what they
Yeah.
did in the TV show, or this could also just be, people being crazy. I mean, people in the Middle East believe in jinn, so you know, could also be something like that.
Yeah, and then here, so her mother claimed under oath to the FBI and US justice officials that the minor oh wait, let me just read this. Siddiqui's mother claimed under oath the FBI and US Justice Department officials had informed her that the minors are with the mother and are in safe condition. The opposite of what such officials had told her American lawyer in May of that year. So it looks like the mother was getting kind of conflicting reports about where her daughter and like grandchildren were. The mother and sister denied that she had any connections to Al Qaeda. Okay. They pointed to comments by former Brigham Air Base Afghanistan detainees who say Siddiqui had been at the prison while they were there. So yeah, it looks like this lady was like kidnapped and the government was denying it for a while. They say she was kidnapped and tortured for 5 years. And she spent a lot of the time in solitary confinement. There's a bunch of human rights groups that have like blown the whistle about this. They were calling her a ghost prisoner, like someone that was a prisoner by the US government, but the government denied like detaining them. Oh, and here, this is a part in the show that they kind of talk about. So, in early 2007, the Pakistan government started releasing more than 100 people who had been listed as missing at the time. And so I just wanted to talk about like a lot of people in real life that there might be like like a missing children, a missing persons report. It's very possible they're just like they're one of these ghost prisoners. They were abducted by the government. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's the United States government. It could be any government, but it's just like for sure there are people that have been abducted by various governments to maybe even do like experiments on, and to the public they're just a missing person. No one knows what happens to them or what happened to them, but in reality they basically got kidnapped by like an organization or like in this case the Pakistani government. Like it's a real thing that happens. This lady, this Siddiqui's mother, claimed to have been warned by an unidentified man not to make a fuss about her daughter's disappearance if she wants safe recovery of her daughter, suggesting that either government intelligence services or the nexus of Pakistani and Arab jihadists had taken her. Then I want to get to where she shows up with a gun to the facility. and then we can kind of move on to the next thing. Okay, it looks like the lady was she had collected materials on viruses for biological warfare, and one of her projects was finding a way to infect Americans' chicken supplies with an antibody that would allow chickens to pass salmonella on to humans more easily. And she later destroyed her work after suspecting Abu Labab was hoping to double cross her and turn her into the United States authorities. So it looks like she was developing some kind of biological weapon to use against the United States. And so that is a very good reason of why the United States might abduct her and deny it. So that's kind of interesting. That's not related to Stranger Things. Okay, here, shooting at Ghazni. There are conflicting accounts of the events following her arrest. American authorities said that two FBI agents, a U.S. Army warrant officer, a U.S. Army captain, and their U.S. military interpreters arrived in Ghazni the following day on July 18th to interview Siddiqui at the Afghan National Police facility where she was being held. They reported they congregated in a meeting room that was partitioned by a curtain, but did not realize that Siddiqui was standing unsecured behind the curtain. The warrant officer sat down and loaded his M4 carbine on the floor. Siddiqui drew back the curtain, picked up the rifle, and pointed it at the captain. We got a quote from him. I could see the barrel of the rifle, the inner portion of the barrel of the weapon. That indicated to me that it was pointed straight at my head. She was said to have threatened them loudly in English and yelled, "Get the fuck out of here," and "May the blood of something be on your hands." The captain dove for cover to his left as she yelled, "Allah Akbar." That's always a scary one to hear people yelling when they're holding a gun. And fired at least 2 shots at them, missing them. So that's good. They tried to disarm her. And then they shot her. So yeah, this could have been what they referenced for the show. So again, in the show, it's Eleven's mother that shows up to the facility with a gun, like shoots somebody, tries to save her daughter. And then there are claims here that like this girl was abducted. I believe she even claimed that her children were abducted at one point. So there is just like basically similarities with like real life examples in the show. You see that a lot, which is super, super fun. And honestly, I think that's about all the examples we have. I don't know if you have anything else you want to go over. We could talk about the MK Ultra stuff more if you want.
I mean, is there a lot of? I don't even think there's a lot of MK Ultra stuff in there. I think the only MK Ultra stuff they do is when they turn the mom into a vegetable.
Yeah, that's one. I believe it was the mind control. Because I don't think it's 11. You can use like telekinesis, but there is another character. It's eight, like the eighth test subject. She can kind of make it so people see things that like aren't there. Which could be referenced from like the mind control test they did in
And
MK Ultra.
and I guess the main bad guy or the current bad guy that everyone thinks the main bad guy, but he's not really going to be the main bad guy. Um, he can control people, I guess, when he puts his goobers in them or whatever he does.
Right? Yeah, yeah. There's some similarities there. But yeah, that about sums up the episode. I hope you liked it. This is we definitely cover a lot of conspiracy theories on the channel, but this is a little bit of something different we haven't done. Um so I hope you liked the format and found it interesting. I feel like everyone could learn something from this episode, so it seems like it was definitely worth covering. Every Wednesday we
I'll just
do
Just link in some relevant media to older conspiracy theories that are pretty much proven true and backed up by CIA documents that not a lot of people talk about or even admit.
Or yeah, or even know about, even if they were like,
Sure.
like real government programs. But they kind of find a way to get into like uh culture with TV shows like Stranger Things, like over time. Um, every Wednesday at 4 we do an episode similar to this. This normally we're not comparing real life conspiracy theories to TV shows. Normally we're going over like real life conspiracy theories or current events, or both. So if you like that kind of stuff, definitely subscribe and check out our other videos. And then throughout the week, we do a lot of live streams. Recently, we've been covering like right wing political podcasts. There's kind of like a big power struggle after Charlie Kirk died in the Republican Party. That's been fun to cover. But we do anything. We did like the LA riots when they were going on. We'll probably do some coverage of these. There was a couple shootings. There was one at Brown University the other day, and then there was that one in Australia. We'll probably do a stream covering that at some point this week, so keep an eye out for that. And definitely leave a comment if we missed anything. um I was trying to keep a nice list of like what aspects of Stranger Things are actually referenced from like real life events. And I think we hit on the major ones at least, but there's no way we hit on all of them. There's so many. And if there's one you wanted us to cover, definitely leave a comment and let us know. And have a great night.